point of interest that I failed to enter, please make sure you stop by the Plymouth Visitor Information Center. Don't know where to go this year? Gee, I'm glad you asked. If you've never been there, pack your bags and head for Plymouth, Mass.
My name is Jennifer Harris, and I am fortunate enough to say that I am the president of America's Hometown Laureates, Inc., period, which is a nonprofit organization that has just recently been created to support the continued work of our Plymouth Poet Laureate, whose name currently is Stephen Delbos. We will be continuing the Poet Laureate program and hope to add a youth Poet Laureate in the next round. But additionally, we've been working very hard on getting grants and being able to provide events throughout the town. Today is actually our third inaugural Plymouth Poetry Festival event, and we're outside here at the corner of North Street, otherwise known as Shirley Square, and we're just going to start to read some poetry. First, I'd like to open with a Langston Hughes poem called Snob. If your reputation in the community is good, don't snub the other fellow. It might be misunderstood, because a good reputation can commit suicide by holding its head too far to one side. So I'm going to now introduce our MC for today, Melissa Kinney, if you'd like to come up.
Hello, Plymouth. Great to see everybody. We're here today to provide you with the opportunity to hear poetry, to share poetry, to recite poetry. And in addition to serving on the America's Hometown Laureate Board, I'm also the co-chair of Plymouth Bay Cultural District. And professionally, I get to work at Cotuit Center for the Arts, where we have created a poetry program for individuals of all abilities, all neurodiversities. And at 5 o'clock tonight, they're having their final workshop with Stephen Delbos, our Poet Laureate, who's also the facilitator of that program. And I brought some of their poems with me because otherwise, if they weren't on Zoom with Stephen at 5, they would have been here. We have found, and I'm sure other poets can attest to this, that poetry is such a clear way to express yourself. It's incredible how poetry has helped people heal, in particular the individuals that I get to work with, especially during the pandemic. So at a time when it was lonely and isolating, the poetry program kind of was born from that, where people were really looking to connect, looking to express how they were feeling, wondering how they could do that effectively. And so one young woman just said, I'm going to write a poem, and is it okay if I share this on Zoom with everyone? It was amazing. She expressed just what we were all feeling at that time. And from there, we created our Express Yourself poetry program at Cotuit Center for the Arts. So thanks to an incredible relationship with Stephen Delbos and what that has meant for the individuals that are taking his classes, for Plymouth, I think we're seeing a resurgence of poetry in our area. And certainly, we're here to really help promote it. So I'm going to read a poem from Alexis Engelman. And Alexis is the young woman who really created the Express Yourself poetry program at Cotuit Center for the Arts. And the name of her poem is The Relaxation Poem. Meditation Walks. The sun on my face, light breeze kisses my face, quiet and calm. No one else is here, natural beauty all around. Bird chirps carry on the wind. I want to stay out as long as I can, but lose track of the time as I find myself turning into my surroundings. Problems seem far away, like the distant traffic. Don't want to return to reality, but alas, I must. I love these calm and relaxing meditation walks. Who else would like to share or read? Jen Harris.
Sure.
Come on down.
Okay. So I selected a few of my favorite poems, and one of them is, sorry, we're working our way through the papers here. Okay, so if you go to our website, it's hometownlaureates.com. Each one of us board members has posted one of their favorite poems, and mine is Stop All the Clocks, Cut Off the Telephone by W.H. Auden. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policeman wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good. Thank you. Shall I go ahead with another one? So one of the other events, which is we're very excited about, the America's Hometown Laureates received a grant from the Town Promotions Fund, and we have the opportunity to bring a renowned poet to Plymouth. Oh, you know what? I wasn't able to print that one out. Sorry, but I'll just tell you. The story is that I made a presentation for this funding with the hopes to select a renowned poet. So when we were sitting there presenting, I threw out a couple of big names, at least in my mind, Billy Collins, Amanda Gorman, and we threw in Maggie Smith, who is not the British actress, but one of our own younger poets who became very popular during COVID as her writing was touching so many people. I think she had over 1 million followers. So she since then wrote a memoir, and she's traveling around the country. She's on the New York Times bestseller list. So we were able to contact her, and she jumped at the chance, which really thrilled me. So we will be bringing Maggie Smith and our poet laureate Stephen Delbos together for a poetry reading on Sunday, October 29th at the Spire. We will have tickets go on sale. They will be free, but you'll still have to have a ticket. And then we intend to also do a private reception beforehand, and then a book signing at the conclusion. I've been very excited to work with the Spire. They're currently doing their preservation, so the building is being renovated, and this will be a premier event this year, thanks to the Hometown Laureates. So I'm very excited about that. Would you like to? I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Melissa.
So I think one thing I would like to add is that poetry really is for all ages. And Stephen Delbos, through a grant that the Plymouth Bay Cultural District received, was able to conceive of a program last year, and we did it again this year, called Commonwealth of Poetry. And it was an amazing intergenerational poetry program between students from Plymouth North and Plymouth South High School and senior members of the Center for Active Living, who came together for several workshops to really kind of talk and think about, I think, more of their likenesses and their differences between the generations. And then through that, they wrote and created some really impactful poetry that was presented at Plymouth North's Performing Arts Center just a couple of weeks ago. So with that, Stephen did send me a poem that he wrote, so I'd like to share that because he could not be here today. And this is called Poem for Plymouth Violins. Luthier's work, curves, carved sound, holes, and look in wooden mirrors. Main Street nook, craftspeople, home, hometown, each lamppost a lighthouse. Nurturing maple until grain shines with focus, vibrations, voice. Luthiers learn to shelter emptiness and tense into song, airs, aria. So that was by Plymouth Poet Laureate Stephen Delbos in recognition of Plymouth Violins, which is a shop here downtown. So one of my personal favorite poets is Mary Oliver, who is prolific for her nature poetry. And this poem is called The Summer Day, and again by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. And we have a reader, and I would love to introduce from C. Plymouth, Paula Fisher, who's going to come read a poem. Paula, is this one of your originals, or this is?
No, it's not. I'll explain it.
All right, great. You take it away.
Hi there. Many years ago, a visitor to Plymouth, Mr. Ron DeBoer from East Long Meadow, Massachusetts, sent me this poem. It's been in my computer ever since. I've read it through once quickly. It was obviously written. There are some changes in the names of our attractions, but basically it's about a visit to Plymouth, so I shall begin. Don't know where to go this year? Gee, I'm glad you asked. If you've never been there, pack your bags and head for Plymouth, Mass. Each step you take is history. That is, if you're a buff. Myself, with U.S. history, I just can't get enough. To survive that first long winter, the courage that it took, half had passed, the rest stayed fast and kept a good outlook. Plymouth is full of history, a great vacation spot. The first point of interest is famous Plymouth Rock. To the left, a walking park overlooking Plymouth Beach. It is there we find Mayflower II, a replica to teach. You can board this pilgrim ship and vision how it was, how they survived the crossing sea to the Americas. The role players are magnificent, like time was standing still. They play the part just perfectly, with no fancy frill. I'll talk some more about these folks when we visit the plantation. For now, let's walk around to view history on your vacation. To the right of Mayflower II lies Pilgrim Memorial State Park, a lovely place to picnic or to stroll in after dark. Across the street and up Coles Hill is a lovely harbor view, and on a clear and sunny day, you can see Provincetown too. Chief Massasoit's statue stands proudly on that hill, and just on Water Street, you'll find Governor Bradford still. The next museum that should be mentioned is that of Pilgrim Hall, America's oldest museum, originating from their faith and freedom. Next, I'll bring your attention historic home sites I cannot forget to mention. The Spooner House, built in 1747, this was the home to 5 generations, over 200 years of Spooners. They all followed in succession. Built in 1677, the Harlow Old Fort House now hosts demonstrations of the 17th century household practices, spinning, weaving, and other creations. The Pilgrim John Howland Society bought this house in 1667, where phrases still run silly. He was the son of 2 Mayflower passengers, John Howland and Elizabeth Tilley. Some phrases that you might have heard, like mind your P's and Q's, end of my rope, pop goes the weasel, sleep tight, to name a few. The Richard Sparrow House, built in 1640. This is Plymouth's oldest house, truly one to see. First Parish Church is the oldest continuous church in New England, standing below Burial Hill, where the very first fort did stand. William Bradford, the second governor of Plymouth Colony, buried on the hill. But you won't find any pilgrims. It's been a secret until this day still. Then off to the right and down the hill, one cannot go to Plymouth and not see the Jenny Grist Mill. Pilgrim John Jenny built America's first grist mill on this site in 1636. Watch the grinding stones turn by huge water wheel as they mix. Find out how important this mill was to the pilgrims and to our country. Listen to the amazing journey and struggles of the pilgrims to be free. A nice walk back from the mill is the Pilgrim's Path. View dedications to the men and women of a lifelong past. Next point of interest, Plymouth Plantation, only 3 miles away. To visit here and watch them act, you truly will be amazed. This living history working museum depicts life in the early 17th century of the Pilgrims and Native Americans as close as it used to be. I mentioned the great role players at the beginning of this poem. They deserve the highest acclamations. Their talent has been shown. Now, if I missed a point of interest that I failed to enter, please make sure you stop by the Plymouth Visitor Information Center. Don't know where to go this year? Gee, I'm glad you asked. If you've never been there, pack your bags and head for Plymouth, Mass.
That's awesome. Thank you, Paula. So that's poetry as a travelogue, right? Like, how awesome.
That was awesome. All that took was me saying, anyone have some poetry to read? And there you go. Fantastic. Thank you, Paula. So in a previous lifetime, I was the library director at the Plymouth Public Library. Many of you know me in that role. And over the years, I had the good fortune to work with many poets and do some very unique poetry programming. But one of the special talents that we had was a group called the Tide Pool Poets. They have pretty much disbanded. Some have passed on, some have moved away. I would like to read one of Joan Dugas's poem. She passed away last year and always will have a special place in our hearts. So, Streaks of Light. Silver streaks in thousands push upstream from the canal, driven by the engine of desire, extending themselves, risking danger. These herrings seek fulfillment. Some will die along the way, caught in the random jaws of cod. Letting go of what was lost, the school swims in unity, destined to spawn new life. Weary of grief, I kneel to the herring's passion, enthralled that such tiny creatures in uphill frenzy have so much to teach me. And in a quicksilver vision, I know I reach with them toward transformation, that renewal may be as close as this beautiful spring day. She was a lovely soul, and thank you. And one of my, if I can say this, favorite poets, his name is Chuck Harper. He ended up being what I called my spiritual guidance when he would come to the library and talk to me about a different poetry workshop. And I'm going back 10, 15 years. He would run several poetry workshops. One included Robert Pinsky, who actually came to the library, and that was one of my goals in life. So Chuck would come and talk, and I would be raised in my emotional and soul at that time. So I wanted to read one of his poems, Charles H. Harper, called Pedagogy. Long Beach, held in the arms of this day as blue, shimmering, and cold as February gives, I watch the repeated gesture of the sea, the rise and fall of each successive wave. It's washed towards me across the sun-gold sand and then slipping back into its blue-green element, wash and slip endlessly in a patient pedagogy of repetition. Thank you.
Thanks. So I have another Express Yourself poetry student's work. This student's name is Andrew Weatherly, and Andrew is a graduate of the Riverview School in Sandwich, and he now lives in New Jersey. But he's incredible. He is a published poet. He also is a visual artist and has sold his paintings for thousands of dollars and is represented across the country. And he's also a member of an organization called Art Lifting, which represents artists of all abilities with all physical, developmental, intellectual disabilities. And they just got a contract with Hallmark. And so Andrew now has some of his artwork on Hallmark cards and product, which he's really proud of. And this poem is called Rainbow Highway. He just submitted this poem to a show called Mutual Muses at Katuitt Center for the Arts, and it was chosen. In a transforming, glowing skyway, there is a rainbow highway, flowing with calm and grace and beautiful clouds of white and silver, where I find my inner peace. Nature offers an abundance, flowing with warmth in a silent place, beyond the sun, beyond the moon, beyond the stars, is our rainbow highway. Awesome. Thanks. Anybody else?
Did you have a second one?
I don't have a second one. Do you have one?
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to start to. We'll start to wrap it up. I wanted to remind everyone that it's Yeats' birthday is coming up, and so through our poetry festival this week, we've already read a couple of his poems. So I wanted to read. I believe there's two. Okay. So this one was written in 1912. It's called All Things Can Tempt Me. All things can tempt me from this craft of verse. One time it was a woman's face or worse, the seeming needs of my fool-driven land. Now nothing but comes readier to the hand than this accustomed toil. When I was young, I had not given a penny for a song. Did not the poet sing it with such airs, that one I believed he had a sword upstairs, yet would be now, could I but have my wish, colder and dumber and deafer than a fish. Did you find that? Okay. And, thank you. Oh, do you want to read that? Would you like to read this? Sure. Yeah. It's called The Good Bones.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're really excited about having Maggie Smith. You know, she is like a rock star. So this is The Good Bones. Life is short, though I keep this for my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep for my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this for my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. And for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you, though I keep this for my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. Good bones.
Thank you. So thank you, Melissa, for your help today and support through all of your poetry work and as a board member. I'm going to read this final poem by Yeats, and it's called Politics. There was just a quote from Thomas Mann. In our time, the destiny of man presents its meanings in political terms. And one of the things that I've been noticing in all my reading of the classics and just life as it is, that we think that we're in a special time politically, but in truth, this happens decade and century over and over again. So this poem was written in 1939, Politics. How can I, that girl standing there, my attention fix on Roman or on Russian or on Spanish politics? Yet here's a traveled man that knows what he talks about, and there's a politician that has both read and thought, and maybe what they say is true of war and war alarms. But oh, that I were young again and held her in my arms. So I want to thank you all for your avid attention. I also want to thank our media special partners, which is PAC TV. We've had a great time working with them so far. We are going to be running off to the Plymouth Arts Center, and we'll have our next event will be at 7 p.m. if you want to come on down, free and open to the public. And we want to thank everyone who remembers how important it is for the cultural arts throughout Plymouth. We believe in a higher plane. Thank you.